Hey, what's up, family? I hope that all is well. King Isom's in the building once again, and I feel like sharing. This is going to be session number 2, and I want to continue my discussion that I began in our previous session, and I want to continue to talk about my thought process as it relates to the images and archetypes that I am deciding to allow to instruct me. With that said, King Isom's at your service. I'm ready to teach. And Prince Isom is in your seat, ready to learn. And let's learn a bit from this particular clip from a very famous content creator as of late. Her name is Just Pearly Things, where her pseudonym, rather, or her pen name or nom de plume is Just Pearly Things. And she has gotten very famous as of late. I ran across her a few months ago, showed up in my little TikTok, feed. And at that time, she probably had a couple of 100,000 subscribers, I guess. I'm looking down right now at this clip we're getting ready to analyze and comment on, and she's got over 1 million. And I want to take my time in this session and the few to follow to really illustrate my point. I'm not talking about her specifically. I'm not talking about whether or not her content is good. I'm not talking about her as a person. I'm not here to question her motives and things like that. That's not my point. What I want to share with you is just my thought process. This is what I'm working out in my mind as I'm managing my manhood, conquering my kingship, and as I'm occupying my place in this world as a so-called black man. Understand me now. So I'm sharing my thought process as they are growing, developing, and evolving, if you will. And I've come to a place as of late to where I am very particular about the images and archetypes I allow to teach me because I understand the power of imagery. So I'm going to continue to share in that vein. And I want to look at just a very short segment of this particular clip from Just Pearly Things. In it, she's, countering some arguments about, feminist and calling men trash and making some good points. But I want you to focus in on not the points that she's making. And I'm speaking primarily to so-called black people and anybody who has an ear to hear, but specifically so-called black men and so-called black women. I want you to look at the image, not the content, but look at what's being conveyed. Look at who the teacher is, the authority is. Look at who the student is. Look at the image of those who are contending. And I'm going to chime in.
How are you able to come on this podcast and say that men, I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was something like men are trash, right?
No, I said men are nasty, but then I said all humans are nasty.
Now, I want you to look at this from the beginning. The first part, it's just a clip, but the first thing you see, and again, I have to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about this because it's something that has been very destructive to our people, so-called black people, and I'm going to address it. Here you have a so-called white woman, Just Pearly Things, and I'm not talking about her. And I have to continue to echo this to get you to begin to see what I am saying and not be triggered by what you've been trained to hear. I'm not talking about her, the individual. I'm talking about her, the image and archetype. Here you have a so-called white woman, pearly white. I mean, just pale white, if you will. Just being honest. And here you having her image and archetype is the defender of men. And she's defending men against the image and archetype of those who are against the man. Those who have been cast as the face of feminism, even though they aren't the ones who started that mess. So-called black women were not the ones who started the push of feminism. That's Caucasian women. That wasn't even your battle. That's been talked about much before. But unfortunately, so-called black women or women of color have been made the face of it, largely in part to their own, aggressive pursuit thereof. But here you have a woman, a Caucasian woman, teaching in the seat of instruction. Because look at them. They're all in a group. She's off to the right by herself. She's cast as the instructor and the defender against I'm talking about her image and archetype now, against the very ideology that her image and archetype has created, cultivated, and perpetuated, and has, in my perspective, I'm just sharing, has used a so-called black woman to be the offensive line to block and open up running lanes for them. And so when I look at this, I don't even hear the content because I understand the power of image and archetype. And I felt uneasy when she was blessing. Man, I hear this woman just pearly things and others like her. But for some reason, I don't want to hear her. For some reason, I don't want to hear her talking about this. Let me move on. But as I do so, again, I'm not listening to the content right now. I already know the content. She's not saying anything deep. It's been said before, and I know where she got it from. But I'm looking at the image and archetype because that's what's been used to train our people for far too long. Let's listen in now.
I'm saying what men are trash. That's common in society, right? Women are trash isn't. Men are held accountable all the time, every day.
So are women. Women are held at a higher standard.
No, we're at a low. We offer less to men than ever. The average age of first men value purity and youth.
Hold on one second. Now, again, and I'm gonna be honest, folks. Where do you think she got that from right there? That men value purity and youth. Now, I don't know her personally. I don't know where she got that from, but I've heard her mention Kevin Samuel's names on many occasions. I'm just going to keep it a buck, beloved. Her and many other women, they've listened to The Godfather and probably other male content creators. Matter of fact, she talks about that, the manosphere. She's listened, learned the content, and now she wants to come and recommunicate that content as if she's teaching women. And also men are listening to her. And I'm not saying what she's saying is wrong, obviously, because I know where she got it from. But I'm not going to allow you to teach me that. I'm not going to sit up here. This is me personally. Let me be very frank. And I'm not angry at her at all. But what I am bothered by, because kings don't get angered, kings get with it. I step into midst of chaos and confusion to bring order. I'm bothered by the fact that it's a consistent pattern in America where they always seek to take information, take history, and then paint themselves into the position as if they are the originators of the same. It's amazing to me how you have people in Hollywood who will make movies about Egypt and ancient movies about people who were obviously black and cast a white person in that role. It's amazing you make a movie about Medo-Persian empires and Prince of Egypt and the Ten Commandments, and you got Charlton Heston and Cleopatra playing black folks. It's amazing to me how you can have these so-called Christians who will have these images of so-called white people painted in the Bible when it's obvious that Christ, the apostles, all the prophets, the children of Israel are black people. This is something that these people, I'm talking about the Caucasians in power. I'm not talking about the individual Caucasian person walking around, and I'm not even talking about just pearly things. I'm talking about now an institution. I'm talking about right now a particular demographic of society that always seeks to cast themselves as the creators of all things. And then every time a movement happens up where so-called black people are finally beginning to take our power and occupy the seat of instruction, here they come. So when I see this particular image and archetype, I'm not talking about the content. I'm not talking about her motive. I'm not even talking about her. I'm talking about her image and archetype. I'm not trying to hear a so-called white woman whose image and archetype have led our women, so-called black women, into this nonsense called feminism, try to cast herself and her image and her archetype as the one to lead us out. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear that from that image and archetype. I want to hear from us. I want to hear from us. That's where I am right now. Listen to this. She says men want purity and this and that, and that's true.
And ever. The average age of first men value purity and youth.
That's true.
Yeah.
Purity, youth, beauty.
Yeah, she got that from Kevin Samuels. She got that from men, probably so-called black men. And now she's regurgitating it, and I'm not knocking her hustle. But one thing I've learned, beloved, is that when it comes down to talent, when it comes down to pure, unadulterated ability, it seems that so-called Caucasians, they love to see their image put forth the information as the authority. And I'm sorry, man. Y'all pray for me. I'm not trying to hear that. I want to hear all women speak to all women and not see a so-called white woman operating from a feminine frame as if she's communicating and teaching the women, converse with so-called black women who are cast in this particular segment as the very image that we don't like. It's about the images, beloved. And I am making a decision. I want to hear the content, just not from that particular image and archetype right here. No disrespect.
Women are fatter than ever before, we're older than ever before, and we're less youthful than ever getting married. And we have more bodies than ever. So we bring less to the table than ever. How many women have a cookbook of just recipes that they made themselves? How many women have that?
Where do you think she got that cookbook stuff from? Now, again, I'm not sure if some of these Caucasian male content creators in the manosphere talked about that. I'm not sure. I've never heard it, but I heard Kevin Samuels talk about it. I've heard so-called black men talk about it. And now she's talking about a cookbook? Come on, man.
You know.
What's her name? The French Nigella Lawson.
Okay, but you're thinking
your own recipes that you've written in there that passed down.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like cooking.
That's exactly what I mean. How many women have a cookbook? How many women know?
Look at these sisters up here, man. They all got little accents here, so I don't know where they from. But look at them, man. Look at the black folks in the back, the dude in the back with his hat turned to the side. You got Mother Hubbard back in the back. And I'm just being funny, and you got the sister in the front right with the jacket on and the weave. And you got the little mixed looking sister here. And you got the sister on the left who's overweight. You got these images. I'm like, are y'all hand selecting this? And here you got just pearly things in the corner talking about who got a cookbook. Where'd she get that from? Again, I want you to understand, look at the imagery. It looks like a classroom of a mixture of so-called black women who are lost, befuddled, and caught in the grips of feminism, hard-headedness, and you got a so-called white woman regurgitating stuff that I believe she got from us. The flavor came from us. And she's trying to occupy the seat of instruction. No, sir. No, sir. I'm going to wrap this up, but look at that image.
Know how to do it. How many women are neat and organized?
But how many men can build stuff? How many men can fix up the home?
My man can.
That's fine, but not all men can say that they do.
All right.
Okay.
Guys to say that
All right, check.
Okay, actually, let's just do it. Let's just do it. All right. Do any of you have a cookbook of recipes you've written yourself?
Okay, that's enough of that. Again, I want to continue to stress this because when I talk, I've dealt with different people all my life. And anybody who knows me, I got love for all races and colors of people. It's just natural for me to be that way. It's natural. So when I speak like this, it's even a bit uncomfortable for me to think about that there are certain people who may be Caucasian or other races who I know and love and have shown love to. And they may hear this and be like, Mr. Isom, this is kind of, what are you talking about? You sound like this and sound like that. But I want you to understand, it's not about the individual. I've been studying the history of this nation. And there is a push to control the images and archetypes that are set before so-called black people specifically. And it's always a push to cast the Caucasian as the beacon of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. And I'm at a point in my life, no. I like the message, but the carrier, I want to hear from our women. Because so-called black women, you have been led down this path for years. And it's the so-called Caucasian woman who you followed. It's the Caucasian man who you have followed. And if I want to hear a voice from a woman to speak to our women, to bring them back to their feminine frame, to bring them back to the glory and the splendor. Because hear me, beloved, there are beautiful women in every race across the planet, some more than others now. You got some races now, it's a little slim pickings there. But there are beautiful women across the globe. But I've traveled across the world. When it comes down to just style, when it comes down to just movement, when it comes down to beauty and power, I'm sorry, beloved, call me biased. Ain't nobody touching the so-called black woman. When she's functioning in her frame, oh my goodness. And so as we see this push to come back to what works, the feminine woman, because Pearly Things is right. That's things we're looking for. She got that from Godfather and other black men. That's what I believe. I don't want to hear it from her, though. So-called black woman, so-called brown woman, I want to hear it from you. That said, the king has spoken. Thank you for listening. Peace.